Welcome to Uncovered. It's Wednesday. I'm Anthony. He's Ron, back where he belongs. And welcome to another episode of Uncovered, where we uncover the MAGA propaganda that is not covered by the mainstream and corporate media. And boy, we have a lot to catch up on. We've almost got like 2 weeks worth of stuff to say. Last week, just so you know, we did have a show recorded, but unfortunately there was a technical hitch and we lost it. Do you think should we do that show again sometime? Because we were discussing all the potential candidates for 2028, weren't we?
I know. We went through 14 Democrats and 7 Republicans. So it was a long haul. Yeah, we should do it. We'll do it again, like maybe as a hot special one.
A hot special, yes. When you are allowed to take another vacation in like 2 years' time. Yeah. Okay, back to now. Gavin Newsom is the hot talk of the moment, isn't he? Now, he's been trolling Donald Trump over the last few weeks in a way that I actually think is brilliant. But do you think it's brilliant the way that he's kind of replicating Trump's posts and putting pictures of him as a strong man and just being Donald Trump? Do you think that's a good strategy? Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, it's a funny story because my vacation in Quebec, I was in very rural areas, so went totally unplugged, no internet, no nothing. For 7 days, I had no idea. We could have been in World War III. I would have had no idea.
We pretty much are.
Yeah. So I open Twitter, first day back, first minute, and the first thing I see is like Gavin Newsom's face on Mount Rushmore. Like Trump always puts out that stuff. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here?
I know, right?
I had no idea, and then I started seeing all these Newsom memes, and I said to Brett, I'm like, what's with all this Newsom stuff? And he started explaining to me, and I said, oh man, that's really, really good. Yeah. I've been waiting for somebody to like mock and troll Trump like this for so long. And because I always thought that this was the way to really get to these people.
100%. Yeah.
And the more I kind of dug into it and started looking at it, I thought, man, this is great. And ever since then, it's continued on. It's just better and better.
I remember saying pretty much when we started this show, actually, all those years ago, that in the British media, if they had Trump as a leader, they would have just mocked him from the beginning. Yeah. Because, your sense of what is right and wrong kicks in, and you know when someone is dumb, and you know when someone is lying, and you know when someone is ridiculous, and so you ridicule them, and that's very much the British way of doing it. Unfortunately, it gets a bit extreme with tabloid newspapers and everything else, but he wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes if he was a kind of leader of a British political party. And he would have been either forced to resign or, all of these things you get with a parliamentary system. But here, with this kind of republic as it is, everybody just kind of has respect for the office of president, even when you have a clown, criminal, adjudicated rapist, and arguably now a kind of Russian operative working behind the Resolute desk. I mean, of course you have to ridicule him.
I mean, just myself following him over the last 4 years after he left the White House and all his events at Mar-a-Lago and his speeches and his rallies and watching all of them and covering them. I just watched how he just got progressively more crazy and inane and started saying way worse than 16, just started saying all these wacko off the wall things, posting all this crazy stuff, QAnon stuff on True Social. And I kept trying to get the media, like Legacy, ABC, CBS Network, the Sunday shows, any of them to like pick up on it. Not just me, Asen, Aaron Rupar, the guys at Midas. Lots of us were doing this. We were like, why aren't you talking about the fact that he's like talking about electric boats and getting eaten by sharks and Hannibal Lecter and all this other wild stuff? Not just about that, but policy stuff like ending Ukraine in 24 hours. I mean, they hardly ever brought that up, and he kept repeating it over and over again on right-wing networks. And it was so frustrating for so long for them not to cover the crazy. And that's kind of what was our motto when we started Midas website, was we cover the crazy. So I think what this has done, well, what that did is the fact that they ignored all of that, and like he would give this insane 2-hour rally speech, telling all these crazy stories and saying all this crazy stuff, and they would just report on like a couple of his policy proposals that he rolled out in the speech, and I would be like, what about all the mania?
And rewrite the language as well. They would put what he said into English.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the most dangerous part of it, because they're giving him a voice.
I will say this. I have found myself doing that sometimes because I don't want people to think that it's my grammar. Like when I'm quoting him in an article,
Right.
I don't want people to think I spell like that, or, so I'm like, so rather than just do SIC every other word, I just clean it up, and then eventually I said, no, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm putting it out. This is exactly what he said.
You still don't have the corporate media, ABC, NBC, CBS, using words like fascism or authoritarianism or dictatorship. Like they will not use that language.
Look, I just talked to a very frustrated, longtime CBS reporter who's on TV a lot, okay? Covers Washington, covers Congress and the president. And he was talking about this, how frustrating it is for him that he will turn in something and they just hack it to pieces. I mean, he can't tell the truth. I mean,
no.
I said, I said, can you even use the word lie? Can you even say like that is a lie? He said, oh, absolutely not. We can't use that word. We have to just say fact check or whatever.
I keep saying, the U.S. is not prepared for an authoritarian takeover of government. It's not prepared on the ground level. The media is not prepared for it. But you see, Trump knows that, and so he uses the media to legitimize him. He knows that the press are going to translate his gibberish into some form of understandable English. He doesn't have to do the work. It's so depressing. In my household, we keep saying, what would Anne Frank do if she had a tip off that all this shit was going down? We are, this is the tip off. Like we are telling you that what is about to happen. There are tanks in DC at the moment. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but please see what is happening here and recognize that this is as serious as it was in 1939. But I just don't get it.
I think, the frustrating part, and this is where the Newsom stuff comes in because it's sort of broken through this.
Thanks for bringing us back to the topic, Ron.
Is the political junkies get it? The people who really follow cable news get it, but that's such a small percentage of the population.
Yeah. But what about historians?
The general public are going about their daily lives just oblivious to what's happening out there.
But did nobody read history? I mean, you were a history teacher. Did none of this stuff go in? And I appreciate that American history regarding the Second World War is different to what we learned in Europe.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's the reason the European leaders rushed to the White House. They didn't do it because Trump invited them this week.
Yeah, for one thing, the war started in 1941 here.
Right? They
according to us,
they felt this great sense of responsibility because they could see that the U.S. was about to align with Russia over the invasion of a sovereign nation. And they were like, that can't happen again. Zoom jumped in and showed up at the White House, and Trump's like, look at all of this power around the room. I mean, this is not going to end well. It really isn't. Okay, let's go back to Newsom because I've got a couple of clips of this. So on Fox News, they're going nuts about it, aren't they? I mean, they really are. They're criticizing Newsom for his use of social media in a way that they would never have criticized Donald Trump. And the irony is rife. Let's take a look.
The other thing is, or at the debate, the other thing for me is that for the last week, Gavin Newsom, why am I giving him advice? You have to stop it with the Twitter thing. I don't know where his wife is. If I were his wife, I would say, "What? You are making a fool of yourself. Stop it. Do not let your staff tweet. And if you're doing it yourself, put the phone away and start over. And if you really, he's got a big job as governor of California, but if he wants an even bigger job, he has to be a little bit more serious."
No irony. Not a sense, no sense of irony. I mean, is it that they're spooked by this? I mean, is that what the reality is? Is that they realize that this type of social media is actually gaining traction and is actually problematic for Trump?
I think at first they didn't know what to make of it and weren't self-aware, and now it's transitioned over into what you just said, that they're aware that this is not helpful to them. So Dana Perino there, the host, I looked her up on True Social to see if she had a True Social account, because you see, what I understand is like almost no elected officials, including Republicans, almost no Fox hosts are on Truth Social.
No.
Truth Social is Donald Trump and a bunch of freaks. It's all like him and his cult. There aren't any prominent Republicans who have Truth Social accounts. And even if they have them, they don't log on. They just created one to like score some brownie points, and they never go on there. So she has never had one. So I believe that a lot of them are just unaware of all the crap that he posts every day over there. They don't see it. And so they're not aware of a lot of it. And so when Newsom, what he's doing is, she's talking about how terrible it is. All he's doing is taking exactly things that Trump has just posted and changes the name, to himself or whatever, and or somebody else. And that's it. And basically leaving it exactly how Trump put it out. And they're outraged, by, oh, what is all this? And it's like, wait a minute. This is exactly what Trump posted yesterday, now, but because Newsom changed it to Newsom, you think it's horrible. And so I think that was their initial reaction, was a lot of them were really themselves not aware of how all the crazy stuff that he posts every day. And I'll tell you, this is what he does. He runs through his fans that are all these weirdos and QAnon people and pulls all these crazy memes and articles and things that people have written. And he'll pick out 15 or 20 of them, and he'll just blast them all out in 30 minutes. And this is some of the most wild stuff. And we have always covered Patriot Takes every single day, does articles about this stuff, but it gets completely ignored for years by mainstream media. So now, for the first time, a prominent Democrat, why did it take this long? A prominent Democrat has decided to use some of it and to show the American people, like, look at this stuff, but doing it in a funny, mocking, humorous, parody way. And it's just, they're all freaking out. It's like, and Newsom was asked about it, I know, in an interview, and he was like, look, if you're offended by what I'm putting out, you should be offended by the fact that this is all Trump material, not mine, And it's not just the people on the right that are freaking out about this. It's also people that claim to be on the left, and Joe Scarbo of Morning Joe, who's a former Republican, right? I mean, I find this as somebody who's very sensitive to people's politics. Even though you're a former Republican, but obviously now you identify as a Democrat, but I still recognize many conservative. You have a conservative DNA, right? And that's completely fine. But I'm sensitive to it. And it's the same when I watch Scarborough occasionally. To me, I see this guy and, again, claims to be, he's not on the left. He's basically a conservative who doesn't like Donald Trump, which I suppose rings true with you. But he's not happy with Newsom over this either. Let's take a look.
The Democrats are trying to find their footing, and it's quite embarrassing, actually. I mean, Gavin Newsom, have you seen what he's doing online? And say, take a deep breath. Don't try to turn the ship 180 degrees and they don't know what to do. I have a good idea. Instead of trying to make school Donald Trump, talk into the camera about affordability. Talk about making groceries more affordable. Talk about what you're going to do for housing. Talk about what you're going to do for energy prices that continue to go up. We heard the congressman yesterday talk about energy prices skyrocketing in New Jersey. Don't try. As I've been saying, Donald Trump's not on the ballot in 26. He's not on the ballot in 28. Why try to drag?
Yeah. He's missing the point. You're probably going to be better at explaining Joe Scarborough's rationale. So let me hear it.
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't watch that show. I haven't watched it in a long time, for a couple of years, largely because of him, because it's the same old crap. He repeats the same stories.
I was hoping you were going to say because it's crap.
Yeah, it's so boring. Right. I like some of the guests that he has in his show, but I follow them on social media. I don't need to sit through 2 hours of him and Mika to be able to catch a little Eugene Robinson, I don't need to do that. So I don't. And so I didn't see it, but how did I see that? That was this morning. I saw it because Charlie Kirk posted it. Okay,
Mm.
why is Charlie Kirk posting Joe Scarborough? Because he's like, look, even Scarborough thinks Newsom is a clown, and this is wrong. Well, first of all, I just published an article this morning on Substack about this. I listed 9 specific reasons why I think Scarborough is wrong. Like, I went into some detail on each one. So if anybody wants to read it, they can find it on my social media pages or whatever. But I'll just hit a couple. First of all, this is not Gavin Newsom. Okay, this is a team of 4 people that he has hired. It's an eclectic, brilliant, funny group of people that he brought in and hired to run this account. It's the Gavin Newsom press account. Newsom has his own page. So Gavin Newsom himself personally is doing exactly what Joe Scarborough wants him to do, talking about kitchen table policy issues all day long, every day from his own account. It is his press office account that is doing all the trolling. So it's a separate account. And also, if you are on Gavin Newsom's email list, are you on his email list, by the way?
No, I'm not. I'm actually not on anybody's email list.
Don't get on it.
Yeah.
Because he floods you with policy stuff, emails. Right. Every single day I get policy stuff from Gavin Newsom. So Joe Scarborough's full of shit on that. Like, it's
he needs to get on Newsom's list.
Policy. Talks about policy all day long.
Yeah.
It's his team that's trolling Trump. So that's a separate deal. So, and talking about, like, why is he poking? Why is he going after? Very suspicious, by the way. This occurs after his trip to Mar-a-Lago, and all of and the network had to just change their name because of the Sherry Redstone stuff. Well, that was a separate deal, but the network had to change their names. They spun off from NBC and all that. So media companies getting sued, that could play into this. But the other part is saying, like, oh, well, Trump's not on the ballot. Are you serious? I thought this guy, like, knew politics. This guy's been in politics his whole life. The whole 26 midterms is all going to be about Donald Trump.
Yep.
It's he's not on the ballot, but he is on the ballot. The midterms are a referendum on Donald Trump because every Republican in Congress has, except for, like, Thomas Massie, has 100% embraced every policy, every tariff, every foreign policy maneuver. They are all in on Trump. There is no one running in 2026 who disagrees with Trump on the Republican side about anything. So the where the economy is at, where the Ukraine war is at this time next year, is going to really decide the midterms. And if the economy is in the tank and the war is not resolved and all of these other things, it is going to be a bloodbath for Republicans. And every Democrat is going to be running against Donald Trump. So him to say, like, it's not about Trump, give me a break. And by the way, 2028, same thing. You're telling me if J.D. Vance is the nominee, that election is not going to be about the record of the Trump-Vance administration? I mean, what is Scarbo talking about?
I have a couple of points. I want to correct you on something, which I think you'll probably agree with me, and that is that I don't believe that as you described, the Republicans are all supporting Donald Trump's policies. I think they are too scared not to support Donald Trump's policies, right?
Yeah. I don't mean like they believe in them.
Right. So I think it's really important that we make it clear to people that, here, the Republicans in Congress, they could have stopped Donald Trump from being a dictator on day 2 if they wanted to.
They could have taken his tariff power away.
Right. But they are all absolutely terrified for their not just their careers, but also for their safety. I mean, he's a mob boss. He literally will hurt them, and they know that. So there's that. And then secondly, I actually made a video last night where I, for the first time, went public saying that I think that Donald Trump will mess around with the language so that he can run in 2028. I'm starting to feel it.
That out. He hasn't ruled it out.
No, of course.
Look, when the European leaders had their meeting with him, right? What was the first thing he did when the meeting was over? He took him over to his hat case, where he gives out hats to guests, and it was all Trump 2028 hats.
Exactly.
That's what he was showing them in the White House.
Yeah. And, Putin's been in power for 23 years consecutively, right?
Yeah.
And so Trump, as he gets closer and closer to Putin, as he is doing, is going to kind of, this is going to rub off on him, and he's going to think, well, why should the Constitution is wrong? And anyway, I'm owed 4 years because Biden stole 2020 from me, so I'm owed 4 years.
He claims that his first term was stolen from him too because of Russiagate, that prevented him from getting anything done.
Right.
He repeats that a lot lately too, and that should be a red flag that people are not paying attention to. When he says, my first term was stolen from me because of Russiagate, and Tulsi Gabbard's talking about it too.
Right.
It's not necessarily so much about like prosecuting Obama. It's about creating the justification for, hey, my first term really didn't count.
It's all coming down the pike. And anybody who either doesn't see it or doesn't believe it needs to really kind of start paying attention, because he hasn't, I mean, with all the tariffs and all the policies that should have gone through Congress, he doesn't even bother. So my concern is, even if the House is flipped and Democrats manage to get hold, he is steamrolling Congress anyway. He sees himself as a completely separate entity, the all-powerful executive. And that is very dangerous. And so Democrats are going to have to come up with some kind of scheme, if they do win the House, to allow House business to take priority and protocol, because he doesn't care for it.
No, I mean, it's definitely going to be a war.
Yeah.
If that happens, because I don't think we're going to take, I think us taking the Senate is a long shot, given the numbers. Everything would have to fall into place, have to be a perfect storm. But taking the House, I expect we will take the House. And so, yeah, it's going to result in a lot of gridlock, a lot of fighting, a lot of investigations. But I'd rather have that than what we have right now.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't even care for a vote. It's kind of irrelevant to him.
Yeah, he just ignores Congress. They just do whatever he tells them to do. At least, presumably, Democrats would not be doing that.
So, while you were away, did you see any of the Alaska stuff live, or were you?
Not live. I watched it all after the fact.
I mean, we were all kind of on the edge of our seat, really. I mean, not least this moment where you had two planes and you were waiting for who was going to come out first, you know, Lady Gaga or Ariana Grande. I mean,
I saw the red carpet thing with the troops. I couldn't believe it.
It was just
I was like, if I'd have been watching that live, of course I would have went nuts, you know.
Yeah, it was so bad. And then, you know, no one pats down Putin before Donald Trump invites him to get in his car. Like, Putin could have had a Molotov cocktail. He could have had Polomia M3 or whatever it is. You know, the poison that he used on Alexander Litvinenko. He could have had a knife and done anything he wanted to. But no pat down, straight down.
The safest person in the world from being assassinated by Putin.
Right.
I think he's like the last person Putin would assassinate.
But isn't that's the kind of point, isn't it? That Trump has maneuvered the US to be more of a friend of Russia than of Europe. And so, because I'm sure the European leaders had some kind of going through a metal detector or something just to get into the White House. None of that for Vladimir Putin. You know, there was no metal detector at the bottom of the red carpet. And so, and I heard, you know, analysts who are experts in this talking about he could have dropped a microchip or a listening device or something in the beast. He could have done anything, and let alone what he actually said to Donald Trump during that time that they were alone together in the back of the car. And of course, Trump has now come out since and has got a whole new attitude towards mail-in voting and goodness knows what else. So, and the other thing I've learned from this, because Putin always obviously travels with an interpreter, and we talked a lot about the interpreter in Helsinki in 2017 and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But Putin has been learning English to the point that he can actually speak it and understand it fluently now.
Sure.
And Trump doesn't really know this.
No, he pretends he can't.
He pretends he can't, right?
Yeah.
Very clever kind of KGB tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And so if Trump's doing any kind of secret chatting to his aides, thinking that Putin doesn't understand, Putin understands everything. And Putin is also able to communicate with Donald Trump, as he said when he was at the press conference, next time you come to Russia. And I was like, man, like, we've totally underestimated how much Putin has outsmarted not just Trump, but everybody who's arranged this meeting.
Yeah, I mean, think about what a useful tool it is to have an interpreter when you don't really need one. I mean, in an interview or a debate or whatever,
Right.
I mean, you're basically you're getting the question, or somebody is saying something, and then you get like a 30-second delay before you have to answer. And you can sit there and think about it. I mean, wouldn't that be great for all of us, right? If we had 30 seconds before we had to respond, we could probably be a lot more clever or conniving, you know? And so that's the reason why he does it. It gives him that chance to sort of delay and think about what he wants to say in response.
How do you think Trump is responding inside that kind of heartless cavity where his beating heart is supposed to live, with regard to all the negative press that's come off the back of this meeting and then the subsequent summit with the EU leaders? Because everybody has agreed that the whole thing is a disaster. Nothing has been agreed. There's no ceasefire. Trump is basically doing Kremlin talking points the whole time. And, you know, there's been no progress has been made at all. Do you think that he's riled by this? Or does he just like being on the front pages?
No, I think he said two things this week about it that were really revealing. One was the fact that he said, for the first time, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be to end this thing. Like, he never admitted that before. Like, this is I really thought this was going to be a lot easier, you know? Yeah. Okay. So I believe that. I believe that he did think that he was going to, you know, because the reason why I believe that is because the second thing he said that I thought was very revealing was when he got caught on the hot mic talking to the European leaders after the meeting. And he said, you know, I really think that Putin is going to do this to help me out, you know, to do a solid, he really wants to help me personally.
Yeah.
So I think I can get him to do this as a favor for me. So that tells me that when he went into office, that was his mentality. He thought that Putin was his friend and they're pals and they're autocratic type personalities together, and they want a lot of the same things. And that Putin was going to hook him up and make him look good by making certain concessions that Zelensky couldn't refuse. And that he would, and then if Zelensky didn't accept him, he would just put all the blame on Zelensky. The problem is that Putin refused to even budge a little bit, refused to concede anything. He wanted everything in the negotiations. And I think that is what surprised Trump, and that's what rattled Trump in Alaska. I think Trump thought, I'll get him face to face and I'll sell him, you know, like he always, that's his mentality.
But do you think that Trump wants to get a deal? Because as I see it, Trump is vehemently on Putin's side over Ukraine. I don't think Trump cares about Ukraine, the sovereignty of Ukraine, the Ukrainian people.
He doesn't care about the terms of the deal.
Yeah.
All he cares about is that the war ends on some kind of terms, you know, even if it's on Putin's terms. And then he can declare that he is the peacemaker who ended the
Nobel
war.
Peace Prize.
Biden couldn't do it. I did it. You know, Europe couldn't do it. I did it. I'm the only one who could have pulled this off. So I think the terms of the deal mean nothing to him. They're totally meaningless. He just wants a deal. And so the problem is that Putin is being so unreasonable. He hasn't budged, that we can see, an inch from any of the demands he made when the war first started.
Yeah,
not an inch.
Ago. Yeah.
And so it becomes virtually impossible for Trump to blame Zelensky as far as why this isn't getting done, because Zelensky is willing to compromise. He says that he did the mineral deal. He even suggested he's willing to give up some territory, but you know, Putin won't give an inch.
The nature of Trump's two-facedness is, it's so blatant, isn't he? Like the way that he changes depending on who's in the room. And so when he's with Putin, Putin is the greatest. He's the greatest. He's wonderful. I love him. We'll hold hands in a kind of weird hand upon a hand kind of way. And yet when he's with the European leaders, this one's the greatest. And the German chancellor, very powerful man, like trying to describe these Europeans like they are dictators, when the Europeans don't want anything to do with this, you know? I mean, even the Italian prime minister, she was incredible, wasn't she? Like the way rolling her eyes.
Well, every time he started talking about domestic politics, she would do that. You know,
Rolling
when he was
around.
talking about the election was stolen, and
Yeah.
you know, and he would go off on all these tangents about the, you know, the press being mean to him, and that's when she would be like, dude, this
You
again.
could also see her beautiful Italian heels under the table. Did you see that? So not only was her eyes going, but she was also like having to
clicking them.
like get, you know, like she just couldn't. She needed like a stress ball or something to kind of hold in her hands. But
You know,
it was
the
very
crazy
telling.
thing is, you know, the spin that there's this weird dichotomy that's very frustrating for me, in that
Yeah.
I know that they can't stand him. They
Mhm.
think he's a buffoon. They think he's a child,
Mhm.
and they think he's dangerous. And yet, same thing with Zelensky. They can't act like that or say that, even though that would be sort of helpful to Democrats in the United States, you know, to not show that he is this
Right.
important, powerful person. And it is in their interest to kiss his ass, because they all have the playbook on how the only way to get what you want from Trump is to praise him and say how great he is and wonderful. So they're in this position, this weird position, where they have to say these things to him. And that's why he wants these meetings in front of the press.
Yeah.
He knows that they are going to say these things to him, and he wants the whole world, more importantly, he wants Americans, the American people, to hear these people giving him respect,
Endorsing
and praising
him. Yeah.
And so here, it's frustrating for someone like me who knows that these people don't mean it, that they really despise him. They think he's a buffoon, and yet they have to praise him to get what they want from the United States. And then he takes that, and his followers and Fox News takes that and says, look, see how the whole world respects Donald Trump, and they all fear him and love him. And it's like, because you know they don't, but
There
they
is
had
actually
to say the words.
There is a technical term now for what you've just described. It's called doing a Tim Apple. And if you do a Tim Apple, then you know that you've sold out, you know. But you're right. They
brought like a gold phone, right?
Right. But yeah, I don't know what the base was, but it was 24 karat gold with this kind of donut with inscription on it, and it was supposedly made in the US, and he made a whole thing of it. Let me set it up for you on the desk. It was so embarrassing. And, you know, my respect for Tim Cook as
all the CEOs know that's what they have to do.
But that if that's not the proof that you are living in a dictatorship, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is, because, you know, it's the fear. It's the fear of retaliation and retribution, and that was what Donald Trump did with his tariffs. That's what it was all about. It was less about policy and more about intimidation.
Yeah, well, there is no policy. Everything he's doing is either undoing policies that have gone before, or banning things, you know, or you know, it's all like negative. Like he talks about all this money supposedly coming into the US, which is mostly untrue. But he's never said, oh, I'm going to build a road, or I'm going to build a bridge, or I'm going to invest in education. Like there is nothing to show for it.
You know, you mentioned that because I really believe that, you know, Biden had all these infrastructure projects and Build Back Better stuff. That was really like the shovels are really going into the ground this year. Like a lot of this money was passed last year and the year before, but these projects weren't really underway in most cases until now. They're all happening. And so I really believe that Trump was going to go around the country taking credit for all this stuff, but he just doesn't seem to care about any of that stuff.
Well, a lot of it is being cancelled, though. You know, some of the kind of
some of them are,
especially all the climate policy stuff.
Oh,
and, you know, like EV,
all the solar, clean energy. All that stuff.
It's a tragedy, really, because there is a pattern, isn't there, of Democrats in office get things done and build things, and then Republicans come in, take the credit for it, and then burn everything down.
So that yesterday with Nancy Mace, by the way, running for governor of South Carolina, she gives a big speech, and her whole feature of the speech was this project that she bragged about getting, you know, for the state of South Carolina, and she voted against it.
Yeah.
And that's like the centerpiece of her campaign.
That's why
something
they
she
have to
voted
name
against.
these projects the Joe Biden Memorial Bridge or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like there has
Democrats
to be some.
don't do that.
No, I know. Let's look at this clip of Caroline Levitt. This is, as we were saying, the European leaders, they hate Donald Trump. They're having to kiss his ass because they don't want World War III to happen. And this is how the White House press room spins it.
All of these European leaders at the White House 48 hours after sitting down with President Putin on American soil. In fact, there was so much progress in the readout that was given to these European leaders immediately following his meeting with President Putin that every single one of them got on a plane 48 hours later and flew to the United States of America. And if I could just read for all of you some of the statements from those European leaders yesterday, you had President Zelensky himself saying it was a very good conversation. It was really good. We spoke about very sensitive points. The Secretary General, Mark Rutte, it was the president only because of the president that this deadlock was broken, but with President Putin by starting a dialogue. So these leaders who this war is in their backyard are very grateful that the president took that call and that he was there to provide them with a readout of Russia's thinking on this, something that was not done by the previous administration at all. Catherine.
Kill me now. It's just so depressing.
I mean, this is what I just said. This is how it played. Look, they had no plans to come to the United States. This meeting in Alaska was such a disaster. It was obviously a disaster to everyone, to the world. And they were freaked out. And they immediately dropped everything. Maloney's on vacation.
I know.
Off on a trip.
Nobody wanted to go there. Like, none of them wanted to be in Washington.
None of them.
All had better things to do.
And they didn't go. And the spin here from Levitt is they came because they heard about the incredible progress that Trump made with Putin. And so they heard about that and were so excited that they came to D.C. to build on that progress. The exact opposite was true. They came because they were freaked out and they were panicking over what happened in Alaska. And they wanted to come here hoping that even though that was a disaster, we're all going to band together. Europe and the United States, please, U.S., don't go with Russia. Stay with us. That's what it was about. But, they have to put out these statements, which, again, Levitt and the Trump administration capitalizes on that. Look, see how much these world leaders love and respect and think Trump is doing such a great job. It's just this incredibly frustrating kabuki theater when you follow European politics closely, as I do and as you do, when you know what's really going on over there and what they really say and what they really think, but they have to perform this theater for the American public and Donald Trump.
It's just jokes. I mean, this total lack of critical thinking, of being able to kind of learn from history. And I keep trying to remind people in the US that people in Europe feel the shadow of the Second World War on their backs every single day, especially people from nations that were subject to, direct bombing raids and the Blitz and everything else.
Occupation.
An occupation,
like
at
Poland,
the very least.
I mean, the countries I'm most scared are like the Poland, the Baltic states, places like that.
But Trump didn't even know why the Finnish prime minister was there, right?
Obviously, they had a very bad experience in World War II with the Russians.
He had to say, we have like a 900-mile land border with Russia. Like, this is why we're here. Trump was like, well, where is this guy? He was sitting right in front of him. It was so embarrassing. He has no idea.
When he tells the story about raking the forest, preventing forest fires, that was the Finland story. So he should know from that. But I think he can't connect the two things. But obviously Finland is very sensitive to any dealings with Putin. Yeah. They have a huge border with them, 100%. Just like Ukraine.
Did Trump say Finland, or did he say Finland and? Because I've listened to it like 100 times, and I was thinking, please have said Finland. it would have been great. Let's look at this
I'm not
clip.
petty like you, man. I don't get hung up on that stuff.
I just would like to know that Trump can't.
Of course, I'm very petty.
That's fine. We have different interests in this area. Trump, though, sees himself, because he's lying about having won 6 wars or solved 6 wars or brought peace to 12
I think
nations.
he's up to 8 now. He said.
Oh, that's
8.
right. Yes, yes, and he
changes all the time.
That's right. There's Pakistan and there's the Congo. And all of these things that are not
Iran and Israel, or I forget who Iran was at war with.
Yeah, well, America, I think, because he dropped the bombs. Let's listen to Trump claiming that he and Netanyahu are now war heroes.
Worked with your friend Bibi. He's a good man. He's in there fighting. He's fighting. They're trying to put him in jail on top of everything else. How about that? He's nuts. He's a war hero. Because we work together. He's a war hero. I guess I am too. Yep. Nobody cares, but I am too. I mean, I sent those planes.
Yeah, bone spurs. This is where his head is at. He honestly thinks that he can brainwash people into thinking that he is this master diplomat. When I wouldn't trust him to. I wouldn't trust him to kind of break 2 kids apart at a children's party.
Yeah, he goes on Mark Levin's show a lot. That's his radio show, but Levin also has a Fox show. And the weird part about that relationship is that Levin is 1,000% pro-Ukraine, pro-Zelensky, hates Putin, but also 1,000% pro-Netanyahu and Israel and hates Gaza, right? So it's a weird thing where, like, Levin almost like avoids talking about Russia, Ukraine, and tries to steer him towards Israel. So that's just a weird thing in the relationship. But as far as that goes, look, this goes to the first thing I thought of when I heard him talking about a war hero, being a war hero for stopping a war or helping prosecute a war in a political makes you a war hero. This goes back. It made me think of the Purple Heart thing, where a couple of different times he's talked about how he always wanted to win a Purple Heart. Right. He uses that word, win a Purple Heart, when that is what you're awarded when you're wounded in combat.
Yeah, you don't earn it. You win it.
You don't win it. Yeah, you get it, and no one who got it wanted to get it, right? But Trump wanted to get it, So he's always had this fascination with, like, wanting to wear a military uniform with, like, medal, like Gaddafi, like these dictators, not actually serving in the military, not putting himself in danger or sacrificing or anything like that. But I don't think he ever wanted to actually do any of that stuff. But he definitely is attracted to, like, wearing a military uniform, having medals, and be considered a war hero, be considered a tough, brave guy. So he's looking for a way, by being commander-in-chief president, to be considered a war hero. And so you hear these little comments slip out all the time like that.
People often tell you who they are subconsciously, don't they? And he did this with the, dictator on day one, or dictator for a day, right? And those of us who were paying attention are like, well, the fact that he's even acknowledging that it's going to happen for one day suggests that it's just going to continue, because he just wants to put himself on a similar pedestal to the great dictators of history, as well as the criminals like Al Capone, who he keeps referencing. And in this next clip, he also tells you who he is, because he says, I want to try and get to heaven if possible. But listen to what he says next.
Just want to end it. I want to end it. We're not losing American lives. We're not losing American soldiers. We're losing Russian and Ukrainian, mostly soldiers. Some people, as missiles hit wrong spots or get lobbed into cities like Kiev and towns. But, if I can save 7,000 people a week from being killed, I think that's I want to try and get to heaven if possible. I'm hearing I'm not doing well. I hear I'm really at the bottom of the totem pole. But if I can get to heaven, this will be one of the reasons. Well, I think I saved a lot of lives with India, Pakistan, they were going at it. The planes were being shot down. That was going to be maybe a nuclear war if I let that go. And I did that through trade.
Yeah. I mean, so people tell you who they really are. And he basically told us that he's not doing very well on the totem pole for getting to heaven, right?
Isn't that crazy? Like, we can take these 30-second clips of Trump, and there's like so much in there. Like we've said that so many times. Like we could do a whole show on that 30-second clip.
Right.
I mean, you're right, because I mean, there's so much there. First of all, India's foreign minister actually issued a statement to the media saying that Trump had nothing to do with resolving their conflict in Pakistan. Nothing. Correct. Zero.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they took that unusual, extraordinary step, and then Trump got mad and hit him with oil tariffs because they did that. So that's one thing. Second thing, yeah, he talked about, you hear the Putin talking point in there, by the way. Very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, maybe some civilians get bombed because they're trying to hit military targets, but they miss, or a missile goes awry and they hit apartment building by mistake. I mean, that's Putin's talking point to him as to why, when he complains, why are you bombing hospitals? Why are you bombing maternity wards? Why are you bombing schools and apartment buildings? Putin says to him, well, sometimes missiles get lost and they go the wrong way, and we're trying to hit military targets, but we miss, and these things happen in war. So you heard him say that, repeat that, which is nonsense. They are deliberately targeting populations.
These are crimes against humanity. This is why the International Criminal Court designates him as a war criminal, is because
You've never heard Trump say, well, why does Ukraine only target military targets and military infrastructure and oil refineries, and Ukraine never targets Russian cities, ever? But Russia only targets, Ukrainian population centers. It's a terror war. It's a terrorism war, not a military war from the Russian side. You have never heard Trump say that, ever. And that's just the truth. So then the other weird thing is, he says he's obviously been thinking about this. And by the way, some very astute followers of mine on Substack are questioning whether lately he's been talking about going to heaven and whether he's going to go to heaven and all this stuff. And, after the South Park did the episode of him in bed with Satan, so they think that that got into his head somehow. And now he's worried about facing Satan. So, he clearly knows he's not going to heaven because he knows all the bad shit that he's done. So if there is a heaven, he knows he's probably not going to get in.
And he has to live with that.
And he's living with that. And so the weird dichotomy here is, he believes stopping the war is going to help him convince God at the pearly gates that he should get in despite all the bad shit he's done because of all these lives he's saved. And so he has to rely on Vladimir Putin to get into heaven. That's where we're at.
That is where we're at. Ultimately, he doesn't respect Zelensky because Zelensky is an actor and a comedian, but he respects Putin because Putin is a strongman and a dictator.
Yeah.
And he also looks at landmass. I think he probably looks at the map and he sees America being this big and Russia being as big.
That's why he wanted Greenland.
Even though Russia has got the economy the size of Spain and all these sanctions, of which Trump has promised new ones and nothing has come of that. Remember, he gave him 50 days and then 2 weeks. And so there's been absolutely no pressure put on Putin at all. And I think Trump just looks at the size of the landmass on a map, which is completely geographically inaccurate, as we know anyway.
What are the two places he wanted to take over when he took office?
Greenland
and Canada. Two of the biggest places in the world, right? Canada's a huge country, landmass, no people, but same thing with Greenland. Huge landmass, no people,
But he's just so dumb. Why do we have to sit and try and get our heads around, what's he thinking? Is he thinking this? He's not thinking of anything. There is just a complete vacuum inside that head. And he just wants to be loved. He's so empty. There's so much emptiness from his childhood. I mean, this is an example of what goes wrong with humanity, right? All the things that could go wrong with a person is Donald Trump. All the worst bits of America is Donald Trump. And
because
we need
instead of putting him in an institution with therapy,
you put him in the White
president.
House. Yeah. Man, we are screwed. Okay, we've got to take a break. We'll come back and look at the militarization of Washington, D.C. next. You can wear it when you go fishing in the morning, when you're running errands in the afternoon, and then hit a patio for drinks that night. And the shirt will hold up the whole day. That's Poncho. Poncho makes the ultimate outdoor performance shirts for men. Seriously, it's the one shirt that I keep reaching for. Super soft, right out the box, just the right amount of stretch, and it breathes like a dream. A vented back, total lifesaver on hot, humid days. But it's not just about comfort. The shirt looks good, clean fit, nice structure, rolls up nice, and somehow works whether you're hiking, traveling, or heading out for dinner. Mine's the classic denim shirt known as the Fort Davis. Goes with everything. Plus, they pack in all the smart stuff like a hidden zipper pocket and built-in lens cloth and even a loop to keep your sunglasses from vanishing. Poncho's got a bunch of great styles and fits, original Western, denim, ultralight, and all backed by their Poncho promise, free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges. So, if you want a shirt that feels like your favorite tee but performs like gear, head to ponchooutdoors.com/uncovered for $10 off your first order. That's PONCHO outdoors.com/uncovered. Go try one out. You know when you taste a meal once and then you just can't stop eating it? Well, Cook Unity was made for adventurous eaters with countless global cuisines from 161 award-winning chefs. Explore an ever-expanding menu of small batch meals, all tailored to your lifestyle, dietary needs, and cravings. Get ready to eat meals delivered directly to your door by going to cookunity.com/uncoveredfree or enter code uncoveredfree before checkout for free premium meals for life. It's easier to achieve your health goals with nutritious, ready-to-eat meals made by top chefs. It helps you snack less, have more energy throughout the day, and it feels like you're savoring rather than sacrificing. This is why Cook Unity is better than ordering takeout or home cooking your meals. Their roster of all-star chefs includes James Beard Award winners and acclaimed restaurateurs. They balance bold flavors and nutrition in their handcrafted meals, which are freshly prepared and delivered to your door and never frozen. Personalize your menu by navigating the easy-to-use platform, filter by chef, protein, cuisine, or dietary need to find meals that satisfy your cravings and stick to your health goals. Meals are delivered fully cooked, heat in as little as 5 minutes in the oven or microwave. Enjoy high-quality culinary masterpieces for a fraction of restaurant or takeout prices. Subscriptions start as low as $11 a meal. Skip deliveries, pause or cancel at any time. Get what you're craving. Try the best-tasting meal delivery made by your favorite celebrity chefs. Go to cookunity.com/uncoveredfree or enter code uncoveredfree before checkout for free premium meals for life. That's free premium meals for life by using code uncoveredfree or going to cookunity.com/uncoveredfree. Terms and conditions apply. Go to cookunity.com for details. And links to our sponsors are in the description below. Welcome back to the pack. Now, if you're living in Washington, D.C., you are probably not going to restaurants, contrary to what Donald Trump will tell you. Isn't it interesting? Like, we heard the media correctly reported that restaurant visits were down 35% in D.C. Why? Because there's tanks on the street. There's the military wearing camouflage, carrying weapons, walking around, all supposedly to deal with crime, which is also down 30%, almost the same as the restaurant usage. And I mean, this is clearly a desire to militarize sanctuary cities, to take over democratic strongholds. I see all this as election interference. I don't know about you, but I think there's a much longer game with this stuff. And I think that Trump is planning to roll it out to other sanctuary cities where there are also mayors who are people of color. We've seen it in Los Angeles with Karen Bass. I see it in DC now. This is far more serious than they're telling us. And I don't know that the media have really caught on to that. Do you?
You hit it right there. Yeah, exactly right. It's really not about DC. This is practice. This is the practice run. By the way, I told you that Scarbo article I wrote it like 3 hours ago, published it.
Mm-hmm.
I just checked during the commercial break there. The replies between the three platforms, 1,784 replies in 3 hours.
How many of them were from Joe Scarborough?
On the Scarborough. Yeah. And they're all hating on Scarborough. So,
right.
Yeah, just obviously, there's something going on there. But look, DC, you also learned this during COVID. When nobody leaves the house, crime goes down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of Trump's crime statistics that he brags about from 2020 is because when you don't leave the house, you don't get in trouble. You don't get DUIs, you don't steal shit, you don't get in fights, crime goes down. So that's what's going on in DC. Yeah. People aren't going out. People aren't coming into the city because it's an armed camp. You have National Guard from West Virginia, Mississippi, Ohio, and South Carolina in DC right now. And so who the hell wants to go? It's not fun. I mean, I follow a lot of people who live in DC who walk around town with their phones. Like Anarchy Princess is a great one. She walks around with her phone and aggravates MAGA people, which is great. And, she said, she's like, it's a ghost town. The bars nothing's happening. The restaurants are, and you got Trump going, DC's hot. Everybody's out. Everybody's having a great time. I mean, just blatantly lying. He wouldn't know anyway. He's just making shit up. So, but this is a preview. I think that this is not about DC. This is about other cities. And we know in 2020 during the BLM protest, he badly wanted to use the military and National Guard, but the people that he had there at the time, Milley and others, said no. And Esper wouldn't do it. And that's why he hates those people now. But now he's got Hegseth, and he can pretty much do whatever he wants. And so I believe that is the plan next year, if not later this year, is to start using we saw it in LA, is to start using the National Guard in blue areas in the lead up to election to intimidate people not to go and vote because they're not going to want to leave the house. That this is practice for that. That's what I think.
100%. Pam Bondi really has shown her true colors in so many ways. I mean, the difference between her as an attorney general and Merrick Garland as an attorney general. I mean, you
even Barr,
right? Even Barr. I mean,
even Barr. So was like semi-reasonable.
Not
really.
He paraphrased the Mueller report to get Trump off, so I don't trust that guy.
Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan.
It's difficult. Yeah. But Barr relieved himself of his own duties about 3 days before January 6th because he knew it was going down. I mean, he ain't stupid. All right, let's take a look at Pam Bondi because, the way that she tries to spin this is very much like Caroline Leavitt, actually, just trying to spin the story to throw people off the scent.
Listen, our law enforcement officers are telling us that people are coming up to them on the street, and they said a lot of people are walking by whispering, saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. They're hearing stories every single night and day of people saying that they feel safe now to walk their own neighborhood where they live because of what our great men and women in law enforcement are doing at the directive of the president.
And going out to dinner, according to the president. And going out to dinner. Attorney General.
Yeah. Take the truth.
It's like an alternate reality.
Alternate.
I mean, you also see how his cultist sycophant people adopt his own language and stories.
Yes.
Trump's favorite stories on the campaign trail route is how people are always coming up to him whispering, thank you, you saved my job, you saved my factory, you saved me, you saved my family, with tears in their eyes, big, strong men, steel workers. I mean, that's Trump's favorite story. I mean, he's told those stories for years. And, you hear people like Bondi and others adopt those same stories. We're hearing all the time. People are coming up, thanking them. the other weird thing about this is like the National Guard is not being, because she mentioned like people are saying they are safe to go out in their neighborhoods. I mean, anyone who knows DC knows where the high crime areas are. There's specific areas of the city where
they're in all the tourist areas because it's for show.
And they're not in the high crime areas. Yeah. They're not going there to protect like the residents. They're what you said. They're in the tourist areas. They're there for show where the cameras are. They're not in the neighborhoods where the crime is.
They want people to share it on social media. So if they go where the tourist kind of Instagrammers are, then it goes viral and it all contributes to the propaganda. But we're also starting to hear from not just National Guard members, but certainly ICE agents as well. Did you see that clip of one of them going, "Oh, well, you liberals, they ruined the city, so that's why we have to be here." My concern is a lot of these people in uniform who are prepared to do this Gestapo-style work for Donald Trump are very much in his camp of white supremacy and extreme far-right nationalism. And that is also what worries me, because they got big guns, these people. And I don't know, the military, as we know, generally, we've spoken before about how Fox News plays in kind of mess halls, and people get, young people, 18-year-olds, getting brainwashed about politics. And so they come out the military, very angry and hating people with progressive thinking. This is the kind of unspoken civil war, the kind of stealth-like civil war that is going on, us against them. Do you agree with that?
What we're seeing, as we predicted before the administration started, at the FBI, at DOJ, at ICE, all these federal agencies, the career workers are being pushed out, and that was the reason for Musk's whole deal, which we talked about. It wasn't about saving money. It was about these buyouts and offering people to leave. It was about getting the career civil servants, the nonpartisan, non-political people out of these agencies so that they could be replaced with Trump loyalists, partisan hacks. And that's also a part and parcel of them tripling the size of ICE, which they're doing over the course of the next 12 months. It's why they needed the $150 billion to ramp up the size of the agency, because that now allows them to hire all these new people. And I believe that a lot of these comments that you're hearing from these rogue agents are a lot of these new people that are being brought in with minimal training. Some of them no training. Some of them we heard this with the Superman guy, the actor Dean Cain, right? The guy who is that he was like an auxiliary deputy with some agency, so he didn't need to go through all the training. He just got the badge and he's an ICE agent. So this is what's happening. You're getting these people that are not qualified, that should not be in these positions with these guns and these badges. They're political hacks. They're going in there for ideological reasons. And that's how they're being recruited, by the way. If you look at the ICE website, how they're recruiting people with the bonus, they're selling this as like, you got to do it for the fatherland. We got to get these criminal rapists, illegal aliens out of here. You're doing it for your country. And that's how these guys are being recruited. So, yes, it is going to get way worse, because these are not your old school law enforcement officers. These are going to be like commandos.
Well, they're thugs, and they're thugs with political opinions, which is completely the antithesis of what a government officer or federal agent is supposed to be about. This is going to get, we're seeing, obviously, we see on Reels various interactions and awful things, and one the other day which really upset me was this guy running away from Home Depot in Los Angeles because the ICE guys were chasing him, and he ran into the freeway and got hit by a car. Tom Homan said a few weeks ago, if this carries on, someone's going to get killed. And I was thinking, this is what you want, ultimately. Yeah. One less person to put into a detention center.
Well, I think what Homan would say is, well, he shouldn't have been here anyway.
100%.
He asked for it, right? That's their mentality.
Did I tell you that I did an expose on a story last week that I didn't see covered anywhere else, that ICE are taking people from the US mainland and putting them in a prison in Hawaii, and some of them are coming from Florida? Well, that's a 10-hour flight from Florida to Hawaii because they've run out of space. And so the prison population in Hawaii is pretty low. They've got room for like 950 and there's only about 260 in there currently. And so they're filling it up with ICE. I mean, this is insane. And I don't know. I sometimes am accused of being pessimistic about this, but I'm very much a realist, as are you. And when you join it all up together, I do see this movement of this far-right nationalism and this hatred of immigrants as really, it's like the Nazification of America, a country built with the abilities and skills of immigrants. It's truly terrible. Tommy Tuberville, one of your favorites, he posted about D.C. For too long, our capital has been a war zone. Democrats have completely run it into the ground. Thank you, POTUS, for taking control and rebuilding D.C. into the greatest city in the world. Is he doing a Tim Apple there? Sounds like he's doing a Tim Apple.
I mean, first of all, he's never been in a war zone. So DC is not a war zone. I don't know what he's talking about. They see these right wingers, these rich white right wingers, who live in Florida like Tuberville and represent Alabama. They see these video clips of like crime, clips and they watch Fox News and that's all they see on a loop or, crime. And they get this impression of countries, or cities, that they're just lawless anarchy, people getting killed and shot everywhere. And, it's not reality. It's just but if that's all you watch is Fox, that's what you're going to think. If you were from a foreign country and you only watched Fox in your foreign country, you would think that the U.S. is a hellhole too, where you can't leave your house. That's what you would think, because that's how they portray it. And so if you're a consumer of that, as Tommy Tuberville is, and you don't ever go outside of your elite, fenced in, gated community bubbles, that's probably what you think. DC's a war zone. DC's not a war zone. I mean, I wouldn't go in certain neighborhoods at 3 a.m.
Sure. But that's the same with any metropolis, any city.
Yeah, but that's anywhere. Yeah. I mean,
another thing that kind of connects to this, because I think it's a stretch for people to recognize that putting the military on the streets of DC is voter suppression, as we are starting to explain. But the voter suppression is happening in multiple ways. Obviously, we know about the gerrymandering going on in Texas and Florida and elsewhere, California, interestingly, as a fight back. But there's also his new announcement that he's going to do an executive order to stop mail-in voting. Now, mail-in voting is used in at least 40 countries in the world. Over 100 countries allow it for people overseas. It's perfectly normal. It's completely safe. And it's actually one of the best ways to cast your ballot, because you can spend more time studying the ballot. You can think a little bit more in the privacy of your own home. There's none of that pressure of being in the polling place and, a line out the door and I've got to, who's it going to be? It's a much better way to vote. I mean, I would have voting done on an app. If they can do it for America's Got Talent safely, they can do it. They can do it for the vote. But Trump, after supposedly a meeting with Vladimir Putin, who brainwashed him into thinking that the reason he lost the 2020 election was because of mail-in voting. I mean, I'll just show this, part of this posting that Trump did, where he is basically explaining that he is going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots, and also, while we're at it, highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines. I mean, this is, I think, an example of where this is all headed. That ultimately Trump wants to be able to control not just how people move around and whether they go out for dinner or not, but also how they vote or preventing them from vote, which has been a kind of Republican move for decades. What's your take on this? Did this come from Putin, or is this something that's been in the works for a long time?
Oh no, way before Putin. I heard a lot of people say that comes from Putin, and
Yeah.
I have no doubt that I know that that's what Putin said to him, but that's just him like reminding Trump,
right?
Hey, you planned on doing this, and it's not happening
because it's in Project 2025.
He talked about this stuff a long time ago,
right?
Many times. And so I think what's new here is him saying he's going to do this by executive order. See, because he talked about like passing it through Congress. We have this weird system. I'm not sure that any other country on earth has it, but it really stems back from the Connecticut Compromise and all the fights that we had trying to pass our Constitution about the states wanting to retain their power. Was that we created this weird system in the Constitution where the states run national elections, and so each state has different rules. Certain things are uniform, but there's a lot of things that are different as far as how to register, how to vote, and all that. But that is written in the Constitution. So the idea that Trump can, by executive order, not a law passed by, even a law passed by Congress, would be challenged. And it would have to be a constitutional amendment to change the system. But let's just say, even that, doing it by executive order, saying like the president with a stroke of a pen can say, you're not allowed to vote a certain way now in the whole United. It's obviously blatantly unconstitutional. I think even Stephen Miller would concede that it is unconstitutional. I don't know that he would admit that publicly, but I think even he has told Trump that.
Yep.
Everyone is told, even Bondi probably has.
Yeah.
So I don't think that he's really doing this with the intent to effectuate this by executive order. I think he's doing it to cause chaos, cause consternation, again, make the Democratic Party around the country hire lawyers to fight this in court, spend money, spin their wheels, and get distracted from things like Epstein and other important issues. Because, if he could just sign a piece of paper and cause the Democratic Party to spend $30 million litigating it, that's a win as far as he sees it.
It's so screwed up. You mentioned a distraction from Epstein. Maybe we should just check in on the Epstein Files and where things are at right now. I mean, some people are saying that the whole meeting in Alaska with Putin was a distraction, a purposeful distraction, because he had no kind of business with Putin, really. There wasn't anything agreed or planned to announce. So, that could have been an Epstein Files distraction, and it was kind of successful because it has pushed the Epstein Files to one side temporarily. The ranking member, Robert Garcia, though, has kind of, from Oversight Dems, has posted about the Epstein Files. I'll just read a little bit of it. Releasing the Epstein Files in batches just continues this White House cover-up. The American people will not accept anything short of the full, unredacted Epstein Files in a bipartisan vote. The committee demanded complete compliance with our subpoena. Hand-picked partial productions are wholly insufficient and potentially misleading, especially after Attorney General Bondi bragged about having the entirety of the Epstein Files on her desk mere months ago. So this is basically the latest kind of in this saga, is that the AG is going to be releasing batches with redactions. This is not what Trump's base want. This is not what the conspiracy theorists want. This is not what anybody wants, really, is it? I don't think that the unredacted full version of the Epstein Files is ever going to see the light of day. It's probably in a burn bag right now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are, to understand that, which has happened yesterday, you have to rewind a second, go back about 3-4 weeks ago, where we left off with Congress, which is that Republicans and Democrats, many Republicans, were joining with Democrats to introduce a bill that was going to pass to release the Epstein Files, to order DOJ to release them. And that's why Mike Johnson adjourned the House a week early to prevent that from because he couldn't stop it from coming to the floor to the vote because it was a privileged resolution from Massey. So he couldn't stop it. So the only way he could stop it was to adjourn the House early for a month while a whole bunch of them went to Israel on AIPAC's dime, which is a separate issue. So, but that was one point. Okay. So at the same time, what they were able to do in the Oversight Committee, a handful of Republicans and Democrats, was pass the subpoena, right? That issued so we can't pass the law, the resolution releasing it to the public, but we can get it for ourselves, for our committee. And they issued that subpoena. And yesterday was the deadline for DOJ to turn everything over to the Oversight Committee and James Comer. They did not comply with the subpoena. Two things happened. Bill Barr gave a deposition to the committee, and Bondi announced, okay, we're going to give you some stuff, but we're going to dribble it out. We're going to give you a little bit at a time. It's going to be redacted. We'll give you some now. We'll give you some next week. And Garcia's like, no. We're not going to, because we can't trust them. How do we know we're getting everything if you're giving it piecemeal to us? This is nonsense. And you're just dragging your feet and dragging this out. This is not what we subpoenaed. So that's the first thing, is this is totally unacceptable, what he's saying. The second part of it is Comer supposedly told Charlie Kirk, who put this out, that Bill Barr completely exonerated Trump in his deposition. Said he had nothing to do with anything, right? So obviously Bill Barr has connections to Epstein through his father. There are some connections there. Bill Barr was also the attorney general when Epstein died in prison, right? So and Garcia, in the last part of that statement, says, and no, Bill Barr did not exonerate Donald Trump. That is not what happened. So any reports that are out there that claim that are not true. And he demanded that Comer release the full transcript of Bill Barr's testimony. So we're waiting on Comer to A, decide whether he's going to force DOJ to honor the subpoena or not, and B, release the transcript of Barr's testimony. There you go.
Firstly, well done, because that was a very impressive monologue. And secondly, there is a kind of theme with this new Trump Justice Department that, their allegiance, they're supposed to be independent, right? The president chooses the attorney general, nominates the attorney general, but they're supposed to operate as separate branches. And yet, as we saw earlier from Pam Bondi, she talks as if she is the press officer for the executive branch, doesn't she? She holds nothing back.
Personal lawyer is what she talks about.
Because she was his personal lawyer briefly, right?
Yeah.
And Todd Blanche, who is the deputy attorney general, 100% was his personal lawyer for a good couple of years. So this is very problematic. And the Justice Department not responding to congressional subpoenas, is that normal, or is that also unprecedented?
Well, if there was a pending case, it would be normal. And that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Congress, both parties, plays politics and pending cases and does subpoenas, like we saw with Hunter. They wanted to bring him in for depositions while DOJ was prosecuting him. And they wanted investigative files. And the special counsel's like, I'll give you everything when the case is over, but I can't give you anything now. So that's really the issue. The issue here is that the cases are over. The Epstein case has been over. He's dead. Yeah. So DOJ can sort of stonewall and use the excuse that, hey, there's still pending litigation, still pending things going on. But that doesn't work in the case of Epstein. It can work a little bit with Maxwell because their stuff is still on appeal, but not with Epstein. And they're not asking for the Maxwell files. They're asking for the Epstein files. So it doesn't work in this case.
Well, they've got her right where they want her, right? Because they've as good as released her, putting her in this minimum security prison. Apparently she's on day release now. Is that true?
Yeah, I keep hearing, I don't know if any of that stuff's fake news or not. I don't think she's been allowed to leave the facility. I read that somewhere, but I think that was debunked. Somebody said that was not true. That was a false report. But she has a lot of freedom. A lot of freedom there to do what she wants.
And that only happened
1,000%
after her
better
meeting.
than the place she was at.
Right.
Yeah.
But if Todd Blanche hadn't have gone to sit with her, the Deputy Attorney General, and discuss who knows what, she would probably still be in the maximum security prison. Right?
And if she said to him, yeah, I sent underage girls to Donald Trump, she'd probably be at a maximum security prison.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously that's still playing out, and we'll kind of keep following that story. Talk to me about Kristi Noem. I didn't really know that she was living rent-free in the residence designated for the Coast Guard. Talk to me about this before I play the clip.
This is like a really bizarre story.
You could say that again.
Which is like right up my alley because I like gossip, and I especially like salacious gossip and scandal, and it's got all that, because I'm like a closet TMZ reporter.
I could tell. I knew that.
I got a lot of paparazzi in me. Okay.
Right.
So here's what we know. Like, she a while back moved into the residence of the Coast Guard Commandant, which is a very, very nice, cushy residence.
Yeah.
Not paying that either. She moved out of her apartment into that. Didn't tell anybody, wasn't announced, nobody knows about it. And then, I don't know, she's got plenty of enemies. Somebody tipped off the press. And actually, Daily Mail is the one who broke the story. And then that was followed up by a Washington Post story with some additional details. Daily Mail sort of focused on the fact that her special friend, who's not her husband, Corey Lewandowski, happens to live right down the street from the Coast Guard Commandant's residence. Very convenient. And they also travel together since he is her unofficial chief of staff. And there's been these rumors that they've had an affair going on for years, which they have denied, but it's kind of like the worst kept secret in DC. So I'm not saying they are. I'm not saying they're not. All I'm saying is there's a lot of rumors out there, and suddenly she moves in here. So she's living rent-free, not paying any money to the government in this very nice place right down the street from her friend, Corey Lewandowski. And she got busted. Hey, what is this? This is not supposed. And why is this? Because Trump hasn't named a Coast Guard commandant yet. They fired the one.
That's why the place is empty.
So that's why the house is empty. So he's just nominated one, but he hasn't been confirmed yet. So until he gets confirmed, he can't move into the residence, which worked. So she's looking at this very nice, cushy, empty Coast Guard commandant residence after Trump fired the Coast Guard commandant, and she's like, well, I'll take that.
Yep.
So she moves in, gets called out on it. So finally she goes on Fox like 2 weeks later, which was a couple days ago, and is asked about it. Hey, what's up with you living in the Coast Guard? So she blames the media. She said that she was forced to move in there for her own personal security and the security of family because she was getting so many death threats. And that's why she had to leave her apartment, which she was paying rent for, into this free place.
Yeah. Well, you won't get so many death threats if you don't abduct people off the streets while they're gardening. Here she is.
I had to leave there because the media put my address, my apartment, the logistics, where the windows were, and details out to the public, and the threats were so much that temporarily I had to stay somewhere else. So the Washington Post just this week did it again. And that's really the carelessness and the thoughtlessness and the heartlessness that the media operates in right now. So
Oh my God, the irony, the carelessness and the heartlessness. The heartlessness is the commercial, which I'm now hearing on iHeartRadio channels, of her being abusive to immigrants and saying, if you are here illegally, we will find you, we will hunt you down. It's like, what do they expect?
Yeah. Isn't Daily Mail Rupert Murdoch owned? I'm not sure. I know it's like a right. I think it is.
It's very. I don't think it's a Murdoch.
A right-leaning.
It's.
I
mean,
UK,
it's.
Yeah.
It's I mean, in England, it is the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
It is, they call it the sidebar of shame down
it's like
the right
the New York
hand
Post
side.
or whatever.
Horrible newspaper, barely a newspaper. But I mean, they do
They're
go
the
for
ones
these
who
types
broke
of
the story.
stories. Yeah.
So
it's
she's
interesting.
blaming like the liberal media for doxing her. It was UK Daily Mail, conservative.
But can you be doxxed if you've got a job like hers?
She wasn't doxxed.
Right? I mean,
she wasn't doxxed.
But I feel the same way about these ICE agents with their masks and using doxing as an excuse for having their faces covered. Like nobody who works for the law enforcement or for the federal government, because the moment you cover your face and you try and deny your identity, then you're in a police state. Like that's basically the difference.
Yeah, when you accept a senior government appointment, it doesn't shield you from like anyone ever commenting on where you live.
So don't work in the public sector if you don't care for that stuff.
Yeah,
it's just baked into the democracy. And again,
the media has to keep that secret. It's not like they're saying like what she claimed where my window is. That's nonsense. They just talked about the fact that she was renting a place in the Navy Yard, and that was it. I mean, but that's the excuse that they always use to justify all of this stuff is death threats. We get death threats. Everybody gets death threats. I'm sure she gets plenty of them as in her position, but it doesn't mean that you get to live rent-free in the Coast Guard commandant's house.
But she makes it worse for herself by cosplaying as a kind of military person.
They're doing it with Hegseth today, by the way.
Really?
Just today, if you go on social media and search Hegseth, because they just put out a story, I think it was Washington Post again, about how much money that the government, that the military is spending on security for Hegseth in his 3 houses, in his cars, and his ex-wives, and his kids. It's like a tremendous amount of money, and he's now crying that he has been doxxed by the Washington Post.
Yeah,
that's today.
You're the Secretary you're the Secretary of Defense, for goodness sake.
I mean, it's like scamming. They claim they got doxxed.
We have to finish in a second, but we have one final story about Pete Hegseth, and joined by RFK Jr. actually in a gymnasium. This is a perfect setup for a gay movie, isn't it? Let's take a look at them working out together.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You're HHS Secretary. I'm here with Secretary Hegseth from the Department of Defense, and we had our big Pete and Bobby challenge today. 50 pull-ups, 100 push-ups. You try to get under 5 minutes. How'd you do?
We got close. I was about 5:25. You were right behind.
Oof, the male macho toxicity is just kind of bleeding through the screen there. There's another clip as well, which that one Pete Hegseth's kind of pull-ups there were rather hilarious, weren't they? As he was kind of wincing, as his leg was like twitching out. Look at this one.
It was President Trump who inspired us to do this.
What is that? Like a frog? It's like a frog, like frog's legs. Is that a new gym move that I don't know about?
I can just tell you that my drill instructor at Parris Island in the Marine Corps would not have counted a lot of those pull-ups and push-ups.
Ron, give me 30 frog's legs straight away.
The kicking and I don't know. That's not.
So what are they doing? Because they're supposed to be at work. I mean, isn't RFK Jr. supposed to be preventing us from dying of the measles or something?
And by the way, at the end of that video, they challenged Sean Duffy, who is Transportation Secretary and the NASA administrator.
That's right.
To join them they're going to apparently make this like a weekly thing. They were calling it the Pete and Bobby Challenge, which now is apparently going to be the Pete, Bobby, and Duffy Challenge. These people are all like reality TV show performers. That's what they are. And they were all, at Fox. I mean, Kennedy is largely the same kind of deal. He's been an environmental lawyer, but, he's never met a camera he didn't love. And they're all narcissists. And they all love filming themselves. And they all are on steroids and workout regimens. They have several things in common. I mean, multiple wives. I mean, you name it. And so it's not unusual for them to form these clubs. But, these guys, we've heard this, like, these are serious jobs that they have. One is running the Pentagon.
I know.
One is running air traffic control and space exploration.
It makes a mockery of the seriousness and the importance of a federal government.
And they're spending all this time doing these promotional videos. Obviously, staff is filming these things and they're putting it out on social media. And we've also had multiple reports that the buildings of their agencies, the Pentagon, HHS, are covered now in framed photographs of them. Hegseth's got framed photographs of him and his wife all over the Pentagon. And it's like, what are we doing here? This is about their own ego, their own narcissism, and the fact that they are incapable of doing their job as it's supposed to be done. So they're doing this stuff.
Listen, dictatorships always fall, right? If we learn from history. And by putting incompetent, inexperienced, and insane people in every single government department to run it is going to be the implosion that we are all hoping for. I have no doubt that this is where it will head, but it's going to be very nasty before we get there. And I mean, even just watching Hegseth and Vance, I mean, when they were not allowed to say anything at the EU summit, they're kind of sitting on their hands so they don't get involved. It just showed that this authoritarian regime is such that they have to get their little wins where they can, because they can't really get them through policy or through the spread of information directly, because everything has to go through the White House and through Trump. So making a kind of workout video together is the closest they're going to get to really exploiting their celebrity in this moment.
Yeah, I mean, because doing their actual job is very mundane. I mean,
yeah,
they
hate it, don't they?
How many times did we see and hear on TV and social media the transportation secretary? I mean, Buttigieg sometimes did some Sunday shows,
right?
But I mean, he wasn't out there making all kinds of videos of himself running around the country, working out, doing all these things. I mean, it's nuts. It's crazy. But again, it's all about their ego. It's all about getting on Fox News. It's all about their social media following. So that's why I say, like, very little has changed in their daily routines from before they entered government and now. They're still doing largely a lot of the same stuff. They just have a lot more power and authority.
We will see how this kind of sitcom plays out, because it does feel like I'm in a Trump reality show. When he was sitting at the table with those EU leaders, this was like a special edition of Celebrity Apprentice. Yeah. And I was like, I wanted to change the channel. I was like, I'm done with this. Like
holiday special.
Right. Okay, listen, thanks for joining Uncovered today. Ron and I will come back next Wednesday for another uncovering. If you would like to check out the audio podcast and take us with you when you run or work out in the gym, that drops later tonight. Don't forget our sponsors in the description. And please comment below, share the show, and join us next Wednesday. Thanks a lot, Ron.
All right. See you next week.